TV shows, books, video games. You pick them up and you just can't put them down. But why is that? I'll tell you as soon as I figure out how to get down from here. This is like really high up. Is there a ladder? Some video games keep you engaged with addictive gameplay loops. Some books with inspiring character arcs. Some shows with dreamy romance. But we're not talking about none of that. No, today we're focusing on a specific rhetorical device that countless pieces of entertainment use to rope in an audience and hold their dopamine-soaked brains hostage. One that I dub demystification. That is, the progressive revealing of hidden truths in a piece of entertainment, and the role that you, the consumer, play in that revealing that makes it so hard to walk away. I started to formulate the concept of demystification when I read Chapter 6 of The Rhetoric of Empire. In it, David Spur talks about the way that colonial writers made non-Western lands into terrifying voids of sheer nothingness, using a rhetorical concept called negation. Writers managed to create a kind of provisional erasure, clearing a space for the expansion of the colonial imagination by writing about what these countries weren't being, weren't doing, weren't possessing, so that they could surmise what they could be, could do, could possess. Spatially, this plays out in colonial rhetoric like a first grader covering a map with whiteout and then drawing their own idea of what they think it might contain. I noticed a parallel between this map filling concept and that of maps in open world games like The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. I thought, isn't negation a lot like when I climb a Sheikah tower and then the blue stuff drips onto the little iPad thing and then suddenly a whole new part of the map is revealed? But there's something distinct from negation here, which is why I started calling it demystification. Negation wipes out what was already there so that there's room to fulfill the desires of the colonial mind. But in demystification, nothing is removed except for the layer of obfuscation. The power of demystification lies in the promise that something already sits underneath the fog, something rich, meaningful, and ready to be discovered, without the need for assumptive imagination. There is no blank space. There are intentionally curated wonders ripe for the beholding. And uncovering those wonders, in this case the map, piece by piece, feels good. Game designers know it too. That's why so many open world games share the same mechanic. I just need to climb this tower to uncover more of the map. I just need to unscramble this signal to uncover more of the map. I just need to hijack this propaganda signal to uncover more of the map. I just need to climb this tower and open these doors to uncover more of the map. Now isn't that better? Demystification plays a way bigger part in your enjoyment than just map discovery. Collectibles and side quests aren't usually necessary to complete the main game, but they offer special items that can help you on your journey. For the most part, you have to find them all on your own, and you aren't exactly sure what you're gonna get. Think treasure chests, stuff like that. Which adds another element of piece-by-piece discovery that keeps you playing just a little bit longer. I can't tell you how many times I've been playing Halo Infinite about to turn the game off for the day, but then I say to myself, well, that Spartan core is only like a 5-minute walk from here. I'll just go snag it real quick. And after I go grab it, I hear a Marine distress call, so I go to help them. Before long, I've played 45 minutes longer than I intended to. Because of the appeal of this sort of proximity, the more collectibles you have in a game, the longer you can keep people glued to the screen. To give you some perspective on why people play Breath of the Wild for over 200 hours, this is the map. Add great fairies, goddess statues, memories, side quests, shrines, treasures, and Korok seeds, and yeah, you get the idea. There are many forms of demystification beyond terrestrial or collectible in video games. One of the most affecting is narrative demystification. Although any game with a storyline has demystification sort of built in, since a good story motivates you to continue engaging with it until you reach the end credits, I want to focus on narratives that are pieced together by the players themselves, not spoon-fed to them in a linear fashion. There are a litany of different story elements that a game designer can place in a game's environment for the player to find of their own volition. The text, speech, and artwork needed to convey a story can be presented in mediums like journal entries, character dialogue, audio recordings, drawings, flashbacks, and more. These elements are much harder to do well than collectibles, which, for the most part, can be scattered in large quantities without too much thought and will still keep most people happy. No, these narrative elements need to strike a series of balances if the desired pole of demystification is to be achieved. They need to be hard enough to find that they would reward the more inquisitive player, but not so out of the way that the average player will be lacking in large chunks of the plot. They need to be expansive enough to give the story some depth and intrigue, but not too verbose. We gamers may be somewhat literate, but don't push it. We didn't come here to read books, we came here to shoot big barrel, make go boom. Lastly, and absolutely most importantly, when assembled by the player, these elements need to coalesce into a compelling, well-written narrative that directly relates to the player's experience. This can be especially hard to pull off if you allow the player to seek out these elements in any order they wish, which is quite common and adds to a feeling of ownership over the narrative on the part of the player, if you can pull it off. If a game's narrative elements fail to possess all of these qualities, it's likely that its players will lose motivation to search for them. They won't feel that they're uncovering truths that carry any real meaning or personal weight, and at that point, they're likely to ignore the story altogether. This was the case for me when I played Mirror's Edge Catalyst, because why on earth would I care about the poorly voice-acted ramblings of some random employees in the game that I've never even met?
Yeah, way more. Besides, Reception. It's not very good down here, is it, guys? You got anything?
I got no bars. Not a bar here. I can't download nothing.
Is this supposed to make me feel something? Like you guys are so boring. Oh. A game that does a better job at presenting narrative demystification is Breath of the Wild. I know. I keep bringing this game up in every category, but that just speaks to how well it does demystification. In Breath of the Wild, you've been asleep for 100 years and you got a bad case of amnesia. But when you take pictures of certain spots around the Kingdom of Hyrule, suddenly you recall memories in the form of cutscenes. Those memories allow you to piece together, at your own pace, the truth about the calamity that has befallen Hyrule, compelling you to go seek these memories out. And then you have Outer Wilds, which is basically demystification the game. It's like Groundhog Day, except instead of Bill Murray, you're this little blue guy. And instead of Punxsutawney Phil, there's a sun that goes supernova every 22 minutes and kills the entire solar system. The whole incentive to play this game is the slow and deliberate uncovering and unraveling of various mysteries through ancient structures, texts, and artifacts, what the game's creator, Alex Beecham, dubs curiosity-driven exploration. His concept, as he explains it here, shares many obvious similarities to demystification right out of the gate.
The other part of the really core part of the thesis was the idea that make a game where the only reason for players to explore is to sort of satiate their own curiosity. We wanted to make a space exploration game where the reason you're exploring space is to learn about the world and to gain knowledge and not like to conquer planets.
Alex and his team were unsure at first if people would be interested in a game without missions or objectives, but judging by the 2 million copies sold, the ability to demystify a virtual space is enough to capture people's time and hearts on a wide scale. At this point, I've talked a lot about what demystification is and how you participate in it, but what's really going on under the hood? The hood, of course, being your cranium. The answer, as French psychoanalyst Jacques Lacan would claim, is the objet petit a, an unattainable object cause of desire. A rhetorical carrot on a stick, except it's the stick, not the carrot. The objet petit a, or just objet a, is not the thing we desire itself, but the sense that causes us to seek an object of desire. When we follow the objet a's direction and finally take hold of the object of desire, we find that we were lied to and the desire is left unfulfilled. At that moment, the objet a serves up another solution, and we chase after that one too. Sound familiar? That Spartan core is only like a 5-minute walk from here. I'll just go snag it real quick. And after I go grab it, I hear a Marine distress call, so I go to help them. This isn't really a secret to people who play video games though. Yes, we know we're being lied to by the developers in a way that will artificially stretch out playtime. But we like that lie. It's symbiotic. We're fully aware of the objet a, but we use it to our advantage. It's the reason people will cultivate Minecraft worlds for years without ever taking on the Ender Dragon, and the reason I still haven't finished Breath of the Wild after all this time. Honestly, I was strong enough to go fight Ganon in the center of Hyrule ages ago, but I have no intention of removing the primary object of desire, and thus stifle the objet a after the credits roll and there's nothing left for the game to offer me. In the meantime, I'll pursue the smaller promises, map discovery, collectibles, side quests, fun little story beats, and ride the wave of fulfilling unfulfillment. In a way, demystification is a sort of hijacking of the objet a for our own enjoyment. Lacan says the objet petit a is what falls from the subject in anxiety, while we say the objet petit a is what falls from the subject and justifies the $60 I spent on this game. You might be wondering why I've almost exclusively discussed video games, despite my claim that demystification shows up in books and TV shows too. I would still argue that this claim is true, but there's a fundamental limitation that makes these mediums less exciting to discuss for this particular rhetorical concept. As I mentioned, demystification works because it is participatory. You are in charge of the uncovering. When you read books and watch TV, this does happen. I mean, you're literally peeling back the layers of text to reveal the wonders on the next page, and you get to decide how many episodes of Severance you want to binge. But that's the thing. Your only active part in demystifying in these mediums is the rate at which you consume the content. Video games are a whole different beast. Not only are you usually the protagonist, giving you an active role in all the mysteries being revealed, but often you get to decide where to go, who to interact with, in what order you want to chase your desires, what you want to ignore entirely, etc. However, I would be remiss if I didn't address another medium that shares a lot of those same characteristics, and thus acts as an apt vehicle for demystification, sometimes with harmful effects: short-form content. On platforms like TikTok, you are the explorer. You get to choose what to like or to skip, and you assume some minimal control over what the algorithm serves up to you. Sometimes, platforms like these are great for weaponizing the process of demystification for creating conspiracy theorists, as Hank Green, host of Crash Course in SciShow, will explain here.
This is how conspiracy influencers work. They present you with a bunch of puzzle pieces and then they have you put them together and you feel like you've done the work. But the puzzle pieces were the ones they selected for you and may have been entirely made up.
When we play video games, we know that all of the wondrous spectacles are chosen by the developers, and we're not actually discovering anything. But much like the dinosaur bones I discovered in the sandbox at preschool that the teacher would promptly dump sand over so the next kid could discover the exact same thing, we're okay with that. The danger comes when audiences don't know that the mystery is fabricated, and that by participating in demystifying that mystery, they are deceiving themselves about what is fake and what is reality. Anyway, all that to say, video games are rad, solving mysteries makes me glad, and believing that the moon landing was faked because of TikTok is sad. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go play 2005's Republic Commando on hard mode. Yo, there's like a whole works cited thing down here. Take hold of the object we desire, Come on, come on. Last one, come on. Shake it all out. Shake it all out. Steady, steady. Steady now. You don't have to let this go to crap. The objet petit a is... The objet...